Ready to dive into something really interesting.
Absolutely. What are we looking at today?
We're going all the way to Taiwan to explore the world of Tesla.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tesla in Taiwan. That's an interesting combination.
Right. We've got these excerpts from a book called Life and Death of Tesla in Taiwan.
Life and death sounds dramatic.
It definitely caught my eye. It's written by this guy, Eugene Chang, a Taiwanese engineer, entrepreneur, and get this, early Tesla adopter.
Oh, wow. So he's speaking from experience, not just theory.
Exactly. We're talking text, images, even some links to videos he's included.
Sounds like a very thorough deep dive. What's the main thing we are hoping to learn from all this?
You know, I think it's about really understanding how Tesla's technology, all the innovation, their business strategies, even the cultural impact, how all of that is playing out in a place like Taiwan.
Yeah, that's a really unique environment to see those things in action.
Totally. I'm expecting to find some surprising connections, unexpected benefits, but also maybe a few bumps in the road,
I'm sure. Speaking of surprises, do you know that Tesla's story in Taiwan goes way, way back? Like, even before the company was the global player it is today.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, get this, the very first Tesla Roadster.
The Roadster, yeah.
That was back in 2005, right? Well, that car had 25% of its components, 25% made in Taiwan.
Wow. Back when Tesla was just this, scrappy startup.
Exactly. And Taiwanese companies were the only ones who were willing to take a chance on them.
That's a really interesting piece of history. Speaks volumes about Taiwanese manufacturers.
Doesn't it? They're like this vital part of the global tech supply chain.
Yeah.
But they're often working behind the scenes,
Totally. They don't always get that brand recognition.
Exactly.
It's funny. The author, he compares them to the Nibelungs.
Oh, what?
The Nibelungs from Wagner's opera. They're like these skilled craftspeople, always working tirelessly, but never really get the fanfare.
Oh, I see. That's a good analogy. Unsung heroes of the tech world.
Totally. But here's where things get really interesting for me. The author argues that Tesla's impact, it goes way beyond just the cars themselves.
Ooh, how so?
It's about changing how we view vehicles entirely and how they affect all these different industries. Like, for example, he talks about electric cars versus fuel cell technology.
Oh, yeah. Like Toyota's Mirai. I think that uses fuel cells, right?
That's the one. He's not a fan.
Well, he makes a really compelling case for why electric vehicles are just the more sustainable choice in the long run.
Yeah, like what kinds of things?
He talks a lot about cost, the complexity of the tech, and then, of course, the environmental impact.
Ah, right. Like even if you're not burning fuel directly, the production of hydrogen?
Exactly. It's not without its own set of challenges.
So electric all the way then?
Well, he goes even further, dives into this whole concept of vehicle-to-grid. V2G.
V2G. Okay. I've heard of this, but honestly never fully grasped it.
So picture this. Your electric car, it just sits there parked most of the day, right?
Yeah, sadly.
But with V2G, it doesn't just sit there. It becomes a power source for the whole grid. It stores up solar energy during the day and then, get this, releases it back at night when demand is higher.
Wow. So your car basically becomes a mini power plant.
Right. Like your own personal power plant just hanging out in your garage.
That's wild. It's
Yeah.
like totally flipping the script on how we think about energy.
It's a complete game changer if it ever takes off on a large scale.
I bet.
Imagine the potential there. We could really reduce our reliance on those big, dirty power plants, the ones that are really polluting things.
Yeah, the ones that just kick in during peak demand, right?
Exactly. V2G could really change everything.
Wow. Okay, so we've got electric cars, V2G, what else?
Oh, and then he goes on about autonomous driving technology, which I know is something you're fascinated by.
Well, absolutely. Driverless cars, the whole thing. Huge implications there.
Yeah, and he talks about it transforming how businesses operate.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. He owns a highway inspection company, right?
Right.
So he sees huge potential in this tech. Like using autonomous vehicles to lower his labor costs, boost overall productivity. And then there's the whole thing about employees being able to work during their commute.
Oh, that's right. If your car's driving itself, you can get stuff done.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's a bit of a glimpse into a future where this technology, maybe it reshapes everything about our work lives.
Totally. And hopefully frees up some time for other things, right?
One can only hope.
So speaking of shaking things up, we have to talk about Elon Musk and Tesla's overall business strategy.
Go on.
First of all, can we just acknowledge the brilliance of the Tesla model names?
Well, you mean like the Model S?
Yeah, S3XY. Come on, you gotta appreciate that.
Haha, I do. It's clever.
They even wanted to use Model E. Yeah, but Ford, they put a stop to that. They own the rights or something.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
But still, S3XY. You can just tell it's Elon Musk, you know? Like, poking fun at the whole traditional car industry.
It's definitely a statement.
And then there's the whole way they approach the market. Selling luxury and mass-market vehicles under the same brand.
Yeah. Most car companies, they create totally separate brands for that.
Exactly. Like, think Lexus for Toyota, Infiniti for Nissan.
Right. Totally different branding to target different buyers.
But Tesla, nope. All under one roof.
Bold strategy.
It really makes you wonder, is that sustainable long-term? Like, will it alienate one type of buyer or the other?
I'm not sure, but it's definitely shaking things up. Only time will tell if it pays off.
Totally agree. Okay, so let's get into what it's actually like to drive a Tesla in Taiwan.
Okay.
The author, he gets into the real nitty-gritty here. First off, cost savings.
I bet. Compared to gas cars, it's got to be a lot cheaper, right?
Oh, yeah. Especially with the free charging at Tesla superchargers. Plus, Taiwan has that time of day electricity pricing, which helps.
Right. So you can charge up when it's cheapest.
Yes,
smart.
Exactly. He even did the math a round trip between Taipei and Taichung. In a Tesla, using those free superchargers, 50 Taiwanese dollars.
Get out. No way. That's what, like $2?
Less. It's insane.
Okay, I'm sold. Where do I sign up?
Right. It's a no-brainer. And it's not like he just stays in the city. He takes his Tesla everywhere. We're talking Taroko Gorge, the Central Cross Island Highway, even up to Wuling.
Wuling. Gotcha.
Highest point on Taiwan's highway system, over 3,000 meters elevation.
Wow, so he's really putting the car through its paces, testing that range.
Oh, yeah. And get this. Driving in the mountains, he had to adjust his tire pressure.
Really? Because of the altitude?
Yeah. And the temperature swings, it can be really extreme. He said it's something that most gasoline car drivers never even think about.
Interesting. So it's not always as simple as just hopping in and going.
It's like, even with all the tech, the laws of physics, they still apply.
For sure. Can't argue with physics.
You know, and there's another interesting thing he noticed about driving a Tesla, especially out there in the mountains.
What's that?
It really turns heads.
Oh, I bet. People probably aren't used to seeing them out there.
Right. He said people would flag him down, you know, ask him questions.
Wow. I could see it. What is this thing?
Seriously. And it's not just curiosity, it's sparking conversations about electric vehicles, you know, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's raising awareness just by driving around. That's a cool side effect.
It's like this unexpected social impact. Just by existing, it's changing the conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about something that's both really cool and a little bit unnerving.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
Autopilot.
Ah, yes. Self-driving Teslas, the stuff of science fiction.
Right. And the author, he was one of the first people in Taiwan to actually use this technology.
Oh, wow. So he's seen it all then. The good, the bad.
Oh, yeah. All the glitches, everything. He even had a bit of a weird thing happen. So he's driving along, right? Autopilot's engaged.
Okay, a little nerve-wracking, but go on.
And suddenly, out of nowhere, this traffic cone, it just flies into his lane.
Oh, no. What happened? Did the autopilot see it?
Well, that's the thing. It didn't. Or at least, it didn't react in time. He ended up hitting the cone.
See, that's what worries me about this technology. You know, it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that for now, the driver still needs to be paying attention.
100%.
Yeah.
Human error is one thing, but we're relying on these systems to be perfect.
Exactly. And then there's the whole other side of things with autopilot.
Which is?
The data.
Ah, right. Tesla's collecting tons of data on how people are driving.
Tons. And he raises some good points about it, you know? Like, what if this data falls into the wrong hands?
Yeah, that's a scary thought. Like, who has access to this information and what are they doing with it?
Exactly. It's sensitive stuff, you know? It's not just about your driving habits. It's about your location, your movements.
It's a privacy nightmare waiting to happen, if you ask me.
Totally agree. And then there's the whole transparency thing. Like, we don't really know how these autopilot algorithms work.
Right. It's all kind of a black box.
It makes you wonder, you know, how much control are we actually giving up when we hand over the wheel, even partially, to this technology?
It's a big question, and I don't think there are any easy answers.
So we've got the autopilot dilemma, data privacy concerns. But there's another side to this whole Tesla in Taiwan thing.
Okay, I'm listening.
The author, he argues that the more people who own Teslas, the better the whole experience will become. For everyone.
Interesting. How so?
Well, he figures wider adoption, it leads to better service networks, faster development of charging infrastructure.
Right, because the demand is there.
Exactly. Plus, the more people driving electric, the less we rely on gasoline, right? Cleaner air, all of that.
Yeah, the environmental impact is huge.
It's like a snowball effect, It gains momentum.
So driving a Tesla, it's almost like a public service in a way.
In a way, yeah. But he's also realistic. He knows Tesla's not perfect. Like any company, they need to be held accountable.
Absolutely. What they do with all that data, how they handle these safety concerns, it matters.
For sure. It's funny, this whole deep dive, it's really about so much more than just cars.
How so?
It's a glimpse into Taiwanese culture, the economic factors at play, even these big philosophical questions about technology and how it impacts our lives.
It's like holding up a mirror to ourselves, right? How are we adapting to this rapidly changing world?
Exactly. And one of the most interesting parts of the book for me was the author's very personal experience owning and driving a Tesla in Taiwan.
Oh, he's been doing it for a while, right?
Yeah, he's got a lot of firsthand knowledge to share. Like, he gets into the nitty-gritty of the financials, the practical day-to-day stuff.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so everyone talks about the cost of buying an electric car, right? But he breaks down all the other expenses.
Okay. Yeah, there's more to it than just the sticker price.
Right. He gets into maintenance, insurance, even those unexpected things that pop up.
Which, with all the technology in a Tesla, I can only imagine.
Totally. But first, the good news.
Lay it on me.
He figures out that overall maintenance for his Tesla, it costs about 75 Taiwanese cents per kilometer.
I don't know the conversion rate off the top of my head.
It's way less than running a gas car. That's what matters.
Oh, okay, got it. Less maintenance overall?
That tracks. Fewer moving parts and all.
Right.
Plus, no more oil changes. Or spark plugs. All those things they tell you about with traditional engines, gone.
That does sound pretty good, I have to admit.
It is. But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses. He talks about how Tesla recommends certain maintenance, just like any car.
Like what? What do you have to do to maintain a Tesla?
Things like AC service, checking the brake fluid, tire rotation, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. And some of that stuff is actually less frequent on an electric car.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. You're free from the hassles of a combustion engine, but you might have other different things to think about.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, there's the whole insurance question.
Oh, right. That's another cost people don't always factor in.
He found that insuring his Tesla, it wasn't really that different from any other car in the same price range.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's like the insurance companies, they're finally catching up to the whole electric vehicle thing.
About time.
Right. He still recommends getting comprehensive coverage, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, especially with the Tesla.
Yeah.
You'd want to be covered if something happened.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's say you're convinced, you're ready to join the Tesla Club. Which model do you choose?
Ooh, that's the big question.
Right. Model S, Model X, there's the 3 now, too. All-wheel drive or not, what about the battery? Sunroof or no sunroof? And then, of course, autopilot.
So many decisions.
I know, it's overwhelming. And the author, he breaks it all down, offers his personal recommendations based on his experiences.
Okay, so what does he say?
Well, if you do a lot of long-distance driving, he's all about the Model S. Longer range than the Model X, apparently.
Interesting. Why is that?
The X, it's bigger, less aerodynamic, uses up more energy.
Ah, that makes sense. You lose a little efficiency in exchange for more space. The eternal trade-off.
Exactly. Now, if you're more budget conscious,
yeah,
the Model 3, that's the way to go, he says. More affordable, but you're not sacrificing too much in terms of performance and technology.
Tesla's really trying to make electric vehicles more accessible, it seems.
Totally. He actually has a really interesting take on the Model S and the Model X. He sees them as being possible because of those early Tesla enthusiasts.
Ones who were willing to shell out the big bucks for the first models.
Right. They basically funded the R&D that led to the more affordable Model 3.
That's a good point. Those early adopters, they play a huge role in driving innovation.
They really do. Okay, so back to these decisions. All-wheel drive. He's a big advocate, even though it might seem counterintuitive for an electric car.
Oh, how so? I'd think you'd want to maximize efficiency, right?
You would. But he explains that all-wheel drive, the way it works with regenerative braking, it actually enhances the efficiency.
Huh. Never thought about it that way.
And it optimizes the performance overall.
Interesting.
Okay, what about the battery? What's his take on that?
Yeah, that's a big one. Bigger battery, more range, but obviously more expensive.
Right. You'd think he'd go for the biggest one possible, right? Mr. Long-distance driver.
Right.
But actually, he makes a really interesting point. He says, choose the smallest option available.
Really? Huh. Why is that?
He's all about practicality. Those bigger batteries, they sound impressive, but they add a lot to the cost.
That's true.
He figures he's put his Model S through its paces, and he consistently gets around 400 kilometers on a single charge.
That's still pretty good. For most people, for their daily commute, you'd think that's more than enough.
Exactly. Plus, charging infrastructure is getting better all the time. Remember those superchargers he was talking about?
Right. You're never too far from a charge, at least theoretically.
But even he rarely has range anxiety anymore.
I guess when you know, you know.
Although he does say whenever he sees a supercharger, he'll usually top off the battery just in case.
Can't hurt to be prepared.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered the big stuff, but there's still the little things like sunroof, yes or no.
The age-old debate.
Right. He likes having one for the light, the fresh air.
Sure, okay.
Although he did say that in Taiwan, the air quality isn't always great. So he doesn't get to enjoy it as much as he'd like.
Exactly. Trade-offs. Okay, last but not least, autopilot. The million-dollar question.
What's the verdict? Is it worth it?
Short answer. Yes. He's a huge believer.
Really? Even after that traffic cone incident?
Especially after that traffic cone incident. It's like he knows the tech isn't perfect yet, but he still sees the potential.
I see. So it's more about the potential than the current state of things.
Exactly. He actually compares buying a Tesla without autopilot to, like, buying an iPhone without internet access.
Wow. Okay. Strong opinion.
He says you're basically missing out on the whole point of the car.
It is the defining feature, you have to admit.
Right. But there's a but here.
Uh-oh. It's always but. What is it?
He thinks Tesla really needs to step up their game when it comes to driver education. Oh, interesting. Like how to use the autopilot system safely.
Exactly. He feels like, at least in Taiwan, there hasn't been enough guidance from Tesla itself.
Yeah, because it's not like driving a regular car. You really have to understand how the technology works, its limitations.
100%. He thinks that lack of education, it could actually be dangerous, people getting complacent.
Totally. It's like anything else, knowledge is power.
It's amazing to me how much this book has revealed, not just about Tesla, but about Taiwan, about our relationship with technology.
It's been a really interesting deep dive.
It has. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is the importance of perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
Hearing the author's experiences as an early adopter in Taiwan, it's so different from what we usually hear about Tesla.
It gives you a whole new way of looking at things.
Right. And it reminds us that technology, it doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Totally. It's affected by culture, by local infrastructure.
Exactly. And it has these unintended consequences that we don't always think about.
Yeah, for better or for worse.
Okay, so last thoughts. What really stuck